Hello everyone, my name is Dimension Master Studios, and welcome back to another episode of How Long Would Blank Go to Jail, the series where I take a look at multiple Ninjago villains and I determine their sentencing. And in today's video, we are talking about another member of the Council of the Crystal King, the second to last one, with that being King Vangelis, also known as the Skull Sorcerer. And like I said in my previous videos, this is going to be less of an exact amount as to how long these villains would go to jail and more of a generalized idea, so keep that in mind. And let's begin. However, before we actually get to talking about the sentencing, there is one pretty big thing that I do feel I need to bring up, with that obviously being the fact that when it comes to the Skull Sorcerer, there's the whole thing of him selling Venge Stone. And from what we've seen when it comes to Ninjago, this doesn't actually seem to be illegal. We know this because when it comes to Skybound, the Ninjago Police Department do actually have access to Venge Stone cuffs. We see this because this is what the ninja are restrained in when they're in Criterion Prison during Skybound. So that means when it comes to Venge Stone, this isn't like something that's illegal if the police have access to it and they're able to use it on criminals in order to restrict them from using any kind of powers. So again, when it comes to King Vangelis, with him selling Venge Stone, this wouldn't actually be considered illegal or a crime if, again, the police have access to something like this. The way that the Skull Sorcerer is getting the stuff, however, that is a much different story, because when it comes to the Skull Sorcerer getting the Venge Stone, he is getting it via slavery, which is definitely a crime. However, when it comes to the actual sentencing, it was actually a lot shorter than what I thought it was going to be, because as it turns out, the sentencing for slavery is actually only 20 years. So again, the Skull Sorcerer will get 20 years because of the slavery operation. However, there is one other thing that I want to bring up, with it being the fact that with the Skull Sorcerer being King Vangelis, the stuff that he's doing could theoretically be considered treason to Shintaro, especially because when it comes to the Months and the Geckos, they are technically residents of Shintaro. So I will mark King Vangelis down with a treason charge, which would end up giving him a life sentence. I can then mark King Vangelis down for assault and battery, considering the battle against Cole right at the end of Master of the Mountain, and plus considering the fact that he's using that sword thingy thing during the fight. That would end up counting as assault with a deadly weapon, which would end up giving him a 33-year sentence as a result. There's also the Skull Sorcerer using the Skull of Hazador on Cole towards the end of the fight, where he's just using the Skull Sorcerer's magic energy thing on Cole. And I'm pretty sure this would end up counting as some kind of torture, so I'm going to give King Vangelis a torture charge for this, which would end up giving him 20 years. After this, we can then mark King Vangelis down on false imprisonment, and that's pretty obvious given all the Monsters and Geckos. However, it would be impossible to determine all the Monsters and Geckos that ended up getting taken prisoner as a result of what King Vangelis has done. So instead, I'm only going to be counting the ninja when it comes to this. So that would be 11 charges of false imprisonment, considering we have all the ninja towards the beginning of the season, and then Kai, Jay, Zane, Lloyd, and Nia towards the end of the season. So again, that is 11 cases of false imprisonment, which would end up resulting in an 11-year sentence. We then can also mark the Skull Sorcerer down for banishment, because, yeah, unlawful banishment is actually a crime, and I'm going to be counting this down for the 3 human members of the Eppley, so Gorgon, Plundar, and Fungus, not Adam, because Adam is a spider, and also Cole and Wu, so that is 5 cases of unlawful banishment. But I'm not going to be counting Vanya in this, because the Skull Sorcerer never actually banished Vanya. She willingly went down into the pit in order to try and save Cole and Wu, so again, she's not going to be counted in this. Yet despite that, I wasn't actually able to find a sentence for unlawful banishment, so I don't know how long he would go to jail when it comes to this. Finally, we can then mark the Skull Sorcerer down for animal cruelty, considering the stuff that ended up happening to Chompy, and this would end up giving him a 7-year sentence. And with that, let's tally up the results. And so, when it comes to the Skull Sorcerer, we can mark him down for slavery, treason, assault and battery, assault with a deadly weapon, torture, 11 cases of false imprisonment, 5 cases of banishment, and animal cruelty. That is a grand total of 23 crimes. And in the end, his sentence would end up being 1 life sentence and 93 years behind bars. This actually means that when it comes to the Skull Sorcerer, he currently has the shortest sentence out of all the villains that I've covered so far, with him not even having 100 years in terms of all the accumulated years and everything. like, yeah, there's obviously the life sentence, but again, when it comes to the actual amount of time that the crimes that don't result in something like a life sentence or a death penalty would give him, again, he doesn't even have 100 years, giving him the smallest sentence so far. And so that's pretty much all I got for you guys. So tell me down below, what do you guys think? What are your guys' thoughts on the whole situation? And I hope you guys are ready for next week, where I cover the 6th and final member of the Council of the Crystal King, with that being the Mechanic. So again, I hope you guys are looking forward to that. Later, guys, this is Dimension Master Studios, signing off.